to THA Talks, for free thought and open minds.
And for freedom of speech.
Hello, I'm Paul Obitelli and welcome to another edition of THA Talks, the alternative podcast show from the UK. Our talks include news, conspiracies, spirituality, the occult, science, history, art, philosophy, religion, and much more. If you'd like to check out our full archive, just go to www.thatalks.com to listen to or to download all our free content. And if there's anyone who'd like to contact us and give us some feedback, maybe you'd like to recommend a guest for the show, you can email us info@thatalks.com or go to our website and contact us via the contact tab there. And don't forget, you can subscribe to us via our RSS feed, and you can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher and many other podcast directories out there. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining me here again for another edition of THA Talks. I'd also like to thank everyone for their feedback on the last show we done with Sonia Poulton, where we discussed gender identity. Now that's a subject that has a lot of layers to it, and it's a controversial one. A lot of things to consider, and a lot of negative things that seem to be coming out of it as well. This is an ongoing debate. Yeah, any more thoughts on that show is appreciated, or if you've got anyone else out there that you think could perhaps add something to the debate, we'll be happy to have them on. We have actually been in touch with Sean ADL from The People's Voice that we touched on a little bit, and obviously he's free to come and have his say on certain things. We like to keep things mutual and give everyone a platform. So we'll keep you posted on if that's going to happen or not. But today, John White is going to be speaking with Rob Waterlander about his project Children on Tour, which is awareness for child trafficking on airlines. So an ugly subject there, but I'm going to pass you on now into John White's capable hands, and we're going to be speaking with Rob Waterlander. Here we go.
Hello, THA listeners. John White here. Oh, look, Paul's put me in the big chair, and we've got a big important one today because we're interviewing Rob Waterlander, and Rob is here to talk about his campaign that he's got going called Children on Tour, which is a campaign against child trafficking over airlines. It's a heavy topic. But Rob is a serious campaigner. I'm very happy that we've got the chance for him to talk to us today and to explain what this is, how he's got into it, and what's going on. So without further ado, I shall say hello. Rob Waterlander, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Hello, Rob. How are you today?
I'm cool.
Oh,
definitely cool. It's like freezing over here. I'm based in the Netherlands, close to Amsterdam, so I don't know what it's about in England, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Oh, it's a fairly average December day in England. It's doing all right. We've got the leftovers from you.
Right.
Okay, Rob. Well, we're here to talk about what you've been doing with Children on Tour. So I'm just going to let you speak and tell us what it's all about. So over to you. Where does the story start?
Well, I will speak about it since we know each other since quite a while.
Yes.
Actually, you're the first one I'm talking to in audio. Normally, I'm writing and I'm meeting people to see if they can help me opening doors for me or for Children on Tour. But it all started about some 8 years ago. I'm working part-time at an international European airport, and my position there is that I assist people from gate to gate, helping them as a handler to get in time at their gate for their flight or bring them through a baggage claim to their loved ones.
Okay.
And part of the job is that I assist children on their way from A to B to C to D. You know, the airport where I work is a big hub, so it's not just flying out and coming in like, I guess, for instance, a small airport like Aberdeen or whatever. But it's like Heathrow. You know, it's like Heathrow is like a big spider in a huge web, and that's the same for another bunch of airports. And I'm at one of them. And I came across a little girl. Actually, it was not even I was not even assigned, but the former neighbor of my parents, who was working for a big airline there, yelled at me and say, "Hey, since you're here, can you help me? We got a little girl. It's weird stories. There's no luggage. She's going to stay for 2-3 months in the Netherlands. Can you do something for us? Since your job is like assisting passengers." I said, "Yes, sure, I can." And I asked her some questions, and I looked at her, you know, the way she behaved, and she was like blank. And I got someone on my courtesy car from a Spanish-speaking guy, a Portuguese-speaking guy, both. And this was a girl from Portugal, obviously speaking Portuguese. I think she was from Brazil, but she had an ID with her, which. Sorry, I'm jumping from one branch to another.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. I mean, I could see why you ran across this, and this was not right. You know,
right, and
these question marks about it.
And then the girl had an ID, a Portuguese ID with her, which is like a little paper laminated with plastic. I mean, it's not a passport. It's like Italian IDs. It's unbelievable. Countries still use those. But anyway, I had the guy. I asked her questions, and she doesn't. You know, she didn't look terrified, not joyful, nothing, blank. And the guy translated my questions, and eventually, along the ride from one part of the airport, one concourse to on our way to baggage claim, I got the information that she would stay with her sister, and she didn't have clothes with her because she would wear the clothes of her sister, and they would buy clothes, which is
it's the right side of plausible, isn't it? It's a bit.
Yeah, you can think
it's the right side of plausible.
Yeah, you can think of it whatever you want, but it could be worse. So. Anyway, I decided to take her to the passport control people. You know, it's like the let's call them customs. And I asked for assistance to baggage claim and to arrivals because I had my a bunch of question marks with what was happening.
Yeah.
And since I don't know if you know about it, if people know about it, but we have like the Schengen area and a extra Schengen area. Schengen area means there's, you know, free transportation for everybody who goes from wherever you want to go and wherever you're coming. So there is no passport check.
Internal to certain areas of the EU that have signed up to Schengen. Yeah.
So not England, but most European countries, yes, a lot of. Anyway. And they said, no, we can't do that. We can't go with you because it's not allowed. And so I had to beg and plead, and eventually they agreed, and they went with me, and we went through a baggage claim to arrivals hall. And she said something about her sister, but we came out, and immediately an older man. Well, what is old nowadays? But I would say in his, I'm in my 50s, but in his 50s, maybe 60s, came to me and the girl and said, "Hey, there's the Portuguese girl." And then the guys from the customs jumped around me and started questioning him.
Yes.
A long story short, that's way too long, but eventually they asked for the sister to come because the girl was talking about her sister.
Yes.
And remember, she said, "I'm going to wear the clothes of my sister."
Yes.
Which was really interesting to see when the sister finally showed up. She was like early 30s, late 20s, and
right.
about I would say 200 pounds. So pretty
bit of a big sister.
So the clothes would definitely fit, but not perfectly. Everything would fit the girl. She could live in a tent, which would be the blouse or the skirt of her sister. Anyway, that eventually they decided to let him go, and they said everything sounds like child trafficking. I said, you got to be kidding me. And what could I do? I would have loved to follow those people, and I was like affected in a it affected me emotionally, and
I can really imagine. I mean, that's a hell of a blow, isn't it? I mean, you've got your working life, you're doing your job, you think you know what life's all about, and then you see that there's something like that going on, hidden underneath all the other activity of the airport, but you're the bloke who now has the issue that it goes on because you've encountered it.
Yeah, and I tell you, I shared it with the people at my office, and they said, "Well, good job. Well, you did what you could do, and now let it go." I said, "No, you that's not how it works for me." So that led. Children on Tour wasn't started a month later. I just started talking with colleagues of mine, and then I heard, I had the same thing, and I had like 5 children, for instance, just an example, or 10 children picked up by the same guy. So stories were adding, but all like not factual stories like with names. There's nothing like nothing put in a database in any way anyway. So and nowadays, some gate agents of airlines know me, and they say, "Oh, you're the guy from." Someone who knows me say, "You're the guy who is with Children on Tour doing the child trafficking stuff." I said, "Yeah." And then they come up with stories from wherever, from African countries, from former East European countries. It doesn't really matter. There's no destination specifically. That's where they come from. That's where trafficking started. It's from a bunch of cities. Like I always remember, I had a 10-minute talk one-on-one with Richard Gere years ago, and about 4 years ago. And we were talking about Tibet and Nepal, what he is doing there, and I was talking about what I'm doing, and he asked me questions like, "Oh, so where do those children come from?" I said, "That's what people usually ask me." But I remember him questioning me because he's a famous guy.
You remember a conversation with Richard Gere, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yeah. But we didn't discuss movie. We discussed work, what we both are doing besides what we are paid for.
No, I understand. Yes.
So, so there's no specific city or country where they're coming in from, but it's a problem. And
but in terms of you, it's more specific where they're coming to, isn't it? Because they're obtaining these children through no doubt a whole range of different methods, but they're bringing them into Europe because that's where the market is.
Well, it's definitely you're talking about up marketing. If you're coming from Romania, from Bucharest, I don't know the average income there, but I know, for instance, the average income in Kiev, like a psychologist, psychiatrist.
But a professional, a graduate professional.
So working for public service, like for governmental stuff. Do you have any idea what those people are earning there? $150 or euros a month.
Nothing, is it? Yeah. So
well, compared to our, so you can just think of a kid from Brazil or Africa or Romania or Philippines. Yeah, it's definitely coming from a market where the value is like, whatever, bring it up, like $210 US for a rendezvous to 100, or it also depends on the market you're selling to.
But there's a black market, and there are established rates for different types of services using trafficked children. So and it goes from the discount to the elite. And the children are sold on the basis of their quality by that level of determination. Whether they're suitable for certain types of clientele who pay more.
Yeah, so the value goes up, and let me specify for the people who are listening to this. I'm not talking about trafficking in general, children. I'm talking about I came across a child in the work I do, and I found out that there are a bunch of loopholes in a service, which is a very good service. I mean, I'm not hammering down on airlines. The service in itself is really good. It's for children, grandma live in France, the parents live in London, and it's a time thing, and the kids are flown by an airline to France with paperwork.
This is the unaccompanied minor service. Sorry, Rob, just for the listeners, this is the unaccompanied minor service.
Yes,
where
sir.
If you've got a child, you can organise for them to take the flight and be dropped off and picked up, and the service itself works fine. So if you're legitimate, legitimately sending your child from one country to another to be met by relatives for a stay at Gross Papa's or whatever that is, the service works. But the problem is the loopholes in the service, which are allowing it to be exploited by child traffickers. Now, do you have any idea of the scale of this problem? How many children do you think this is happening to in Europe? I know that's not a fair question, but are we talking hundreds? Are we talking thousands? Are we talking tens of thousands?
Well, let me tell you that airlines are not really keen on giving numbers of the whole UMs they're serving. But I know some numbers from big airlines, and if I just play with some numbers, then worldwide you're talking about 1 million UMs traveling around the globe
per year.
Yeah.
So 1 million unaccompanied children per year being sent around by this service, and how many of those do you suspect might be trafficked?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a good question, which I can't answer in detail. But coming back to Richard Gere, I said, "Do you think it ever will stop?" He said, "No, I don't think so." But it's worthwhile the effort when we are able to save one. And
God damn it, yeah.
I know it's happening. I know stories from kids flying in from. I have some facts, but it's only a few, and people, if you want to hammer me down, say, "Oh, it's only one or only two." Okay, if it's your child, it's one too many.
It's the other way around, Rob. I wanted to try and get into sort of highlighting how big the problem is and how real the problem is.
Yeah.
Sort of give it a sense of scale. There's absolutely no doubt that this is going on, and I think we have mentioned we do know each other a little bit. Rob's a Facebook friend of mine. Excuse me. And the one thing that I'd like to say to listeners is that I deal with a lot of people. I talk to a lot of campaigners, and Rob is something else because he's a very serious person, and he advances on absolutely solid fact, and he doesn't want to be speculative, which I think is absolutely right. But you've discovered this problem. You came across it in your work. You couldn't sort of ignore it because it was right there in the middle of your working day, and you started to talk to people. You started to get things together. Can you explain what level of people you've been talking to? I mean, because this is another thing about you, Rob. You don't just post a lot of stuff on social media about how awful things are. You go and petition the right people. So can you take us through how you've run your campaign from the initial stages to now, and the level of people that you're talking to about this?
Sure. I sure can. And I feel very blessed that I consider myself very lucky. I have a simple aim, which is changing the procedures of unaccompanied minor services of airlines. And that's all I'm aiming at. And I came across a bunch of people, which is also mentioned in the recent article I wrote, and you were one who looked at my article and edited it and played with it, and I had some others. I didn't do it by myself. I did it with a bunch of people. It's carrying my name. I wrote the basic, and then people start playing with it, and so I will come back on that in a minute.
Sure.
What I found is that if you're serious after something good, and you're not yelling and screaming and throwing stuff around, which you might think is true, but you can't. They're not based on facts. There's going to be one person who wants to bring you down, and they will be successful. So I'm very careful with what I'm saying, what I'm doing. Everything what I'm saying is based on facts. If it's not a fact, I will tell you. It's a guess of mine. If you look at the numbers, it's about 1 million UMs, I guess, looking at the numbers of airlines who I found, airlines who gave numbers, not to me, but somewhere it was shared online. If it's only 0.001%, then you do the math. And it's not about one child.
No, it's much bigger.
Yeah. So when I travel frequently, and always when I travel for work, I study and help people with pain issues and get them moving again. And one trip I was in the US for that. I 2 weeks in Wyoming to become an instructor, a Rossiter system instructor. And on my way back, I stopped at a friend in Washington D.C. and he is linked to Homeland Security.
Right.
And he is a tremendous help. And I had a meeting back then, and I'm not saying this to say, to give an idea or to have people think how good I am, but everything is coming out of my own pocket. I look around, I find it very annoying. Nowadays, child trafficking orgs, anti-trafficking organizations, it's a lot about funding, whether it's governmental funding, or they do fundraising, and it all looks nice, but I wonder about it, how effective it really is. And there's a lot of career activists in that industry.
Yes.
I'm paying it out of my own pocket. It's not about me being proud of it. I just want to make a change, changing the procedures, or have people changing the procedures, companies changing the procedures. And on my way back, I had a meeting with NACMAC, National Center for Missing Children in Alexandria, which is like just around the corner of DC.
Yes.
Which was not really useful, but I'm glad I went there. And they only go after missing children when they're announced missing. But do you have any idea how many? We don't know how many children there are missing. We don't know they're missing.
Well, if there was somebody to shout out for them, then children wouldn't be being trafficked in the first place, would they? Well, maybe not so. No, certainly not so much. I mean, if there was a family saying my child's been stolen.
Yeah. Exactly. That's
who they deal with.
Yeah, and they're all, and I think they're good people and they're doing good work, but they honestly said, we're going after missing children. I said, well,
Okay.
what you actually do, and I let me rephrase what you're saying, but in my simple language, if you look at a railway crossing, the most railway crossings are more secured once someone had an accident there, who died there. I said, that's what you are actually doing. You're going after children who are missing when they're announced to be missing, when there is a problem. This is a problem you don't see, so you don't do anything. He said, yes, that's true. We just can't. Okay, so I went there.
Well, they're dealing with the visible tip of the iceberg, aren't they?
Yeah.
Once the child has gone missing on an official level,
Yeah.
But common sense says that there's going to be a lot more under the surface, but it's just not being dealt with. And you're in a situation where you're seeing these children being ghosted through airports. Just like they're like ghosts, aren't they? And as long as the docket matches both ends, through they go.
Oh, well, honestly, in almost 10 years' time, I've only had 2 custom officers ask for paperwork of the UM. So it's easier to get a child through security, through airports from one side to the other side, than to take a bottle of water with you.
Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
shocking.
I'm laughing.
And I mean, that is what you are doing this for, is so that people can understand that, because I believe that when people come into contact with facts like that, and as you say, because you're advancing on fact, then you can make a real difference to society, because you couldn't sleep well once you found out what was going on. And I think that really that's how the majority of people are going to feel. And what about when people are passengers on these airlines, and there is that little girl and no one seems to be with her, and maybe somebody thinks about her, but but then she's being dealt with by the airline crew, and the passenger thinks it must all be fine, and they've got no idea. But at the other end, that child's just going to go off with this guy who picked up 10 others last week,
This, John, this is, and I will come back on that in soon today.
Yeah.
This is a lot about procedures. As long as procedures are in place, things will go fine. If you let me tell you right away, if you speed on the highway and you're lasered, or someone, police officer took a picture, then you get a fine at home. That's the procedure, and then you need to pay. If you don't pay, they come after you. If you see a piece of luggage in an airport or on a train station with no human being next to it, then the procedure is, everybody knows that everybody acts upon that. Then you go to a security staff member or a police officer, and you say, hey, there is a piece of luggage. There's no one with it. I don't know about it. Can you check? And then
you're gonna have coppers with machine guns pile in, and then they're gonna have a bomber squad along to blow it up, aren't they?
Yeah. And with children, with UMs, the thing is, I'm not talking about regular child trafficking. I'm talking about a service which is a really good service for parents, grandparents, children traveling to schools outside the country. And back and forth. It's really great. Though later on I will tell you what the loopholes are, and because of that loopholes, it's like giving you or anyone a credit card, telling you don't need a PIN number. You can take money whenever you want, but please only take it from your own account.
Yeah,
and that works for a lot of people pretty okay. But not for child traffickers. They see a great opportunity to have a child even better handled by an official company. No one is asking questions. Everything looks, the procedure is just so, okay, that's fine. Passport is checked. It's great. If you check the UM form, most even don't even have an ID. But it's like they're off radar.
Yeah,
they're not seen. They're seen, but they're not seen. So when I came from Wyoming and I traveled to DC, fortunately, I was very lucky to see my friend from, linked to Homeland Security. And I met the guy when he was years ago. I mean, like when I was not even working at the airport.
Yeah.
When he was on his way to do interviews for the Yugoslavia Tribunal. Is that the right? I'm from
yeah.
Tribunal. My English is not perfect.
It's absolutely fine, Rob.
But so we had he flew from DC to Amsterdam, and I flew from, I came from LA, and we talked for 6-7 hours in a row about life, about things, and we never, we were, I don't know, I can't say friends for life, but since then we have established a real good friendship.
Right. So you've got to,
yeah. Yeah, and I was visiting him too. I was 1 week with other friends in DC and 1 week with him, and he invited me to stay at his home with his family, which was cool, and I enjoyed seeing all kind of stuff in DC, which I never did before. So, all great. He took me to the Capitol, which was interesting. But a certain night, he asked me, and mind you, he was already doing stuff for me, helping me.
Yes.
And suddenly he asked me, there is, would you be interested to come to see, to hear a guy talking who is basically from your backyard? So, in other words, really close to where I'm from,
yes,
in the Netherlands. And he said, he is talking about cybercrime.
Okay.
Do you want to come? I said, yeah, sure. And that guy who was talking was the executive director of Europol, Mr. Rob Wainwright. And my friend really kicked me in the butt. He said, after he closed, and he mentioned a few times cybercrime in relation, to child sex crimes, and I said, I need to talk to this guy, but I was like a little teenager, I'm daring, but not all the time. So my friend kicked me in the butt. He said, "Go now.
Go do now.
Yeah,
yes.
Talk to him." So I talked to him, and I asked the simple question, and that was really how I experienced my work so far. I said, "Thank you for talking tonight, Mr. Wainwright. I have a question regards child trafficking, which I'm working on stuff, children trafficked through airports and via service of airlines. Are you going to be the next one? Can I ask you a question? Are you going to be the next one who is ignoring me, or what?" And he said,
I said, question.
Yeah. And he said, "Certainly not. I don't have the time to go into it too deep." But there was like a bunch of people around him, and he was asked for some other stuff. And he said, "But here is my business card. Get in contact with me, and I will put you through to the right people." And that took a few weeks, which he even apologized for, which is no need to. But yes, this is someone who walks the talk. And so is his director at the office in The Hague, which is Bill van Gemert. Good people. And they put me really through, they opened doors for me with all, and then it started going faster.
I think that's something really worth pointing out right there, is that, I mean, I know you're dealing with what's in front of you, but I mean, we talk about people in the system. Yeah. And we're very concerned about corruption in the system and who's rotten. But yeah. I think we lose track of the fact that the system is packed with people who have got white hats on, who are trying to do those jobs for the right reasons. And we hear about the problems more than we hear about the people who are doing it right, don't we? So, and I think that as campaigners, because there's been campaigners in a much wider sense might listen to this, I think it's always worth bearing in mind that there are genuine people out there who can genuinely help.
Absolutely, John. More than we like to believe. I like to believe, personally, I like to believe the other side. I like to believe that the majority of the people who are working in, like most of the people, professional people I'm talking now, are all from police, Secret Service, law enforcement stuff people.
Yes.
And they're working their butts off, and they're dealing with the same asses in the world we are.
Yes.
What I see is what they don't. These are professional people.
Yes.
You and we can say, and I recently said someone from a Secret Service who is fighting, there, and I will talk about it in a minute, which is all linked to my article as well.
Well, I tell you what, Rob, I just want to keep a little eye on the structure of the time that we've got, because we've chatted away for about 40 minutes now. Can we? I would like to sort of move on to what your campaign is looking to do. What's the problem with getting these laws strengthened, getting these rules strengthened to close this loophole? What level is this decision made at, and what are you trying to do to sort of support that decision, those decisions being made at the right level? So what's the campaign now? What's the objectives of Children on Tour right now?
Well, there are two main things, main parties. One is government, which is partly politicians. They're pretty slow.
Yeah, very.
They're really slow. Then there is the private companies, like, as we are talking about, airlines. I'm sure they don't want to have cases blown up in their faces, but sooner or later it will. I know I'm branching out, but recently I had a talk with a documentary maker, and he said, "Well, this is really interesting stuff," and he dived into it, and he came back to me and he said, it's true what you're saying, because I found,
shocking.
It's shocking, but it's not, as the word nice doesn't really apply, but it's nice also because, I know what I don't know in detail what is happening, but I know things are not okay. And when then someone comes back at me, that's always, it adds value to my persistence.
Credibility to your testimony and your campaign
also,
position. Yes,
but it adds energy to my work. So he said there's a girl from Uganda, 12 years old. She flew in from Kampala to Copenhagen. And then she was picked up by, later on, they found out, she was picked up by a well-to-do gentleman in Denmark who lived in Copenhagen. And the girl went to school, obviously was living with the guy, no one asking questions. Why would people, it could be her adoptive father or whatever, until the moment she got pregnant. And then a teacher asked questions, and they found out the guy was made her pregnant, and then they went after him. He fled. He is nowhere to find. He left the country probably. His house is empty. It's just one case. I have other cases as well, but it's like things happen, and the loopholes someday will cause a problem for an airline. So what I see is that the loopholes are. Do you want to hear the loopholes?
Yeah, please do, Rob. Please do. Let people know exactly how this is happening.
Yeah. So if you look at, let me in general talk about the loopholes. The public has no idea what is happening. That the system allows anyone to drop off a child at an airport and then hire a service to bring the child to the gate, to the flight, and through security and onto an aircraft. And then people also have no idea that at the final destination, wherever that might be, the same child is escorted by another handler, going through customs and handed over to whatever individual whose name is written down on the form, the form.
Yeah.
That's basically the system. What is that?
But as long as the name matches, that's it.
Yeah. So there is no, and my article is, people need to read it sounds like a bit pushy.
Oh, we'll be linking that underneath this bid, Rob. So don't worry about that. People will have the link to your site and your.
If they don't want to hear me talk, which I can imagine, time wise, but as exciting, how interesting or good it might be, but the article reads in like 7 minutes, and you know everything. So.
And it's horrifying, isn't it? I mean, it's not just child trafficking here. It's also children being trafficked to be trained as jihadis.
Yeah, and
that's another part of it, isn't it?
Let me tell you that in a minute, what happened. But so there's no authority in place to check any validity or ID or passports of the people who are dropping off and picking up the child. It's just like, I have no idea whether a passport is fake or not, right? I have no authority to do that. So there is no database in place to screen for whether someone who is dropping off, picking up, has a criminal record or is already suspected of human trafficking. No one is putting that in a system. And honestly, I didn't come up with that. My Homeland Security friend came on. He said, "Is there a database?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, here you go." And you
can't check if you don't have the information, can you? Even if you wanted to put a check in there, if you haven't got the system in place to do it.
I know. So and then there is no guarantees that the child's parents are the ones who booked such a service. There is, it's a list too long. So the only requirement is that there is a form which needs to be filled out, and that an ID document of that person dropping off or picking up needs to be checked by a handler or an airline who has no authority to check any ID anyway. They have no ID, and I can tell you now that's pretty new news. And I need to mention that too. We're making progress at the airport where I'm working. My general manager, my managing director, is really helpful, and we're going to see a representative of an airline, and soon, they are interested to see what is happening actually, airside, landside, what I'm doing, handling wise, and see what's it. But there is a solution. I've seen the solution. And that needs to be implanted. But there's not just me who decide, who's in charge of that. It's like airlines, it's like a handler, and of course it's like, you're talking about privacy. It's like I know I'm using words which professional people don't use, but sometimes I use them. There's a lot of BS, but it's also it's hiding behind procedures. The moment someone's child is gone, and it's an important person, that's the moment it changes today.
Yes.
Anyway, so there's no authority checking the ID. Then a big one. On the form, the address which is mentioned is only basically the address of the one who is dropping off and picking up. So if a child arrives at destination, officially there is no address where the child saying where the child is going. So you've
only got the details of the person doing basically. I mean, but it's legitimate. It's a child.
Yeah, but that's it.
But John, that's you don't know where the child's going to end up. You can't track it. You can't follow that up afterwards. So you can't do a welfare check on them. And is that doing?
Yeah, okay, and I know why. I know why it is. How it came to that. Because the system is basically for parents who are dropping off their kids, flying to grandma, granddad, to the school and back. So that's also where the child goes and where the child lives. But there is
It's
no.
for when it's for when it's for systems being exploited for trafficking, and the system was never designed.
Yeah. So here here's like here we're talking about the loopholes. It's too easy. So the UM services, and that's what I'm saying also in my article. The UM services are the perfect package deal for child traffickers.
Yes.
And their commodity is traveled smoothly, really easy. No, I mean, if you would go with a child which is not yours, one thing for sure, the chances that you are going to be asked questions at customs, I would say, is like minimum 50%, probably to 99%.
Yeah.
Not with UMs. The UMs are in a procedure, and everybody looks like everybody thinks, okay, that's cool. It's not cool. It's the same thing, but because it's on a paper, it's cool. So let me continue. So what we do, we focus at children who are trafficked for sex or organ harvesting. I have had a talk with a surgeon from Boston, and yes, I'm emotional, but the story she gave me, I mean, right away, I had to assist her at the airport with her dad, for her dad actually, and I find out, and she gave me a story about the terrible things happening in that, and tears were shooting out of my eyes. I mean, it's unbelievable what she was telling me. So, and then besides this,
well, I mean, I just want to say, Rob, I'm listening to that, and I'm sort of going, I'm not going to let myself, express how much that tears me up, because this whole topic area, you can't deal with it without your emotions. You have to have a connection to your emotions, because they're a connection to your humanity.
I know.
And above all, it's your humanity which is powering you as an activist to keep going and keep slogging away, and doing this work. So I mean, I'm completely with you. It's absolutely horrifying, but we're here to talk about it, and you're doing fantastic. So please,
let me give you an example. Can you imagine that the child also they're sold also by their parents for money? I mean, money is an important thing in life. So a parent is selling a child, is going with some unknown person, not even as a UM. I mean, this was not even a UM story. Ended up in France, in a hospital, escapes, going back to his parents' home, and the mom said, "What are you coming to do here? I mean, they wanna cut me open." The child was sent to Paris for a illegal taking away of his kidney. People have no idea, or they have an idea and they rather look away. I don't know. Anyway,
well, I mean, I'm assuming that there's sort of people who are profiting from all this, because, as you say, it is about money, and there's a vast amount of money sluicing through people's pockets for running these criminal enterprises, of the worst kind. But the fact is that there must be people who want to buy these organs. There must be people who want to buy these children for whatever use they have for them.
Well, I don't want to be nasty, John, but
yeah,
it's not a fact what I know, but it's what I heard.
Yes.
But I heard that Steve Jobs was not on a list as being the person who was first to get his new organ when he was still alive. We don't want to know where when you're in another circuit getting your organ, do we really want to know where the kidney is coming from?
Yeah, well, people aren't going to ask too closely, are they?
Yeah.
Not most of the time anyway. I mean, I think the NHS has stories of, I met the person who donated their kidney or whatever, but they're not very common. But okay,
so let me continue. Let me continue because
please.
Yeah. So then I had a talk at a governmental, Justice Department, and I didn't hear anything. As I said, I think they're slow, but I'm allowed to. Well, they're not pleased that I'm saying it, but I think the governmental politicians and the whole thing is like a big blur and slow thing, hardly moving. But then almost a year later, I get a phone call, on email first and then a phone call. If I wanted to come back, I said, well, I'm not really keen on coming back to the same thing because this and this and this happened. And they said, yeah, we heard it by accident that you have been there, though we are from a different department. We're doing anti-terrorism stuff.
Right.
I said, cool. And we're interested to hear your story, to hear your expertise. I said, well, you're most welcome. Why don't you come to my home? And they did. And that's how I learned about radicalized young ones, already radicalized from the West, brought up. They might not even, I mean, they know of 9 years old, and they might even be younger, I don't know. Traveling from the West, so Europe, might be America as well, to the Middle East, getting their training and coming back as, well, name them sleeping cells. And sooner or later they might be activated and blow up your school where your kids are, or the I don't want to be the fearmonger, but that's just pretty realistic.
It's a matter of risk, isn't it? And the more that we are stacked one way, the greater the chances that a risk is going to happen. I mean, look, on the terrorism front, I'm mortified this week because it's the start of the celebrations for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we're not just in the UK, of course, all over Europe. We've got Christmas fairs, Christmas markets. The people starting Christmas shopping. Now, we've got 200 town and city centres in the UK, which are being ringed with steel and concrete defences to try to prevent any potential vehicular terrorism. Because we've seen that tactic being used against people over the last couple of years. But the fear of that gets to me. That we can't have the society where we can just be lawful and peaceful about Christmas anymore because we don't know where this threat is coming from. But the things we turn a blind eye to, there's so much of it. But of course, what a perfect method for radicalized Western parents to get their children off to jihadi training camp.
But John, there might not even,
come back.
There might not even be the adults might not even be the parents of these children. They might be taken away from whatever and end up to be sleeping cells and they bring them to a shopping mall and then say goodbye. So who is?
Well, I think what I was driving at is that those who are radical Islamists, who are Western citizens, who are having large families by virtue of the tenets of their interpretation of the faith. That they multiple wives, multiple children, big families, and that potentially a service like the UM service is being used to turn those children into weapons to attack us with.
Yeah, that was what the question. That was what the question was directed at. What I know and what I see, and
so you're alarmist all the way up until the point that you're right, aren't you? You're alarmist until it's too late. You're alarmist until it's happened, and then we never knew about this massive network, and that's what the public is kind of having to deal with, coming to terms with. And this is just one more of those areas where, as you've said, something is going to happen which is going to blow the lid off this.
It's not a question if it's going to happen. It will happen.
It's not if. It is a when. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not fearing it. It's just a part of life nowadays. If you go, you go. But is it necessary? No, definitely not.
What would you like people to do? How can people help you?
Well, if you look at, for instance, if you read my article, you read about, I'm not mad. I've changed my text a little bit, which was about, it was partly name and shame. But I would like to work. As you know, I'm not an EU fan. No. And definitely not since the anti-trafficking coordinator, promised me like 3 years ago at the headquarters of Europol to get in contact with me personally. Well, that was the last time I talked to her face to face.
Yes.
I recently sent an email again to her former boss, Cecile Malmström, and I will send an email to the Human Rights Commissioner. I hope, John, I would love to work with all parties, like not just, if you look at Rob Wainwright is just so helpful with opening doors, but
So
I don't expect him to do the work.
Would it help for people to contact their political representatives
Absolutely.
of any
Everything.
kind and say,
everything helps.
"Oi, matey, I'm reading this stuff online from his children on tour. What the bloody hell are you doing about it?" And give you that kind of support. I know that's not how you deal with things, but I come from the bottom of it. And actually give some pressure. And it's like, "Oi, what's going on, politicians? Why aren't you paying attention to this campaign?"
I know.
Would that help you?
Of course it helps. I would love to sit down with, I know there are haters of Nigel Farage and there are the people who adore him, but I would like to sit down in a interview with, like I'm sitting down, this is longer, but and I like it the way we talk right now, but I would like to sit down with Nigel Farage and having an interview with him shown to the world. It's just about sharing with people what is happening. You can't deny it like Mr. Khan is doing, but that's not helpful. You can deny it when, you don't have to, I know where you're coming from, where you are. I'm not really fond of people who scream around things, but you can't deny, what's her name? The lady of Britain.
Jada Franson.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing is, if you dislike people screaming like that,
do something about the issue stories screaming. Yeah. It is, isn't it? If you don't let the social pressures grow, if you deal with the actual problems, people don't have to get frustrated. They don't have to think that their system's not working for them. They don't have to think that representatives don't give a damn. They don't have to think that criminals are getting away with exploiting kids left, right and centre. And they don't have to get agitated and start joining groups that demand extremist answers.
And John, also...
Well, Rob, I'm going to have to say to you that we have had a fantastic talk, but we are coming close on to time. So,
okay.
Is there anything final you'd like to get across to people in the last 5 minutes?
I definitely want. Let me talk. If you look at, for instance, it's also mentioned in my article, the Palermo Protocol. It came into effect in the year 2000. But is it effective? No. That's one thing. Signed by 117 countries, but hardly implement initiatives to deter child traffickers at this very moment. We're 17 years later. If you look at Principle 5, I listen to people talking about UNICEF and UN, but if you look at Principle 5E of the UNICEF Children's Rights and Business Principles, it states, literally, I read it now, the corporate responsibility to respect includes seeking to prevent and eliminate the risk that products and services could be used to abuse, exploit, or otherwise harm children in any way. This principle therefore calls for action by airlines to stop child trafficking within their operations. So who's taking action? That's just a question, a rhetorical question. Another thing is to compel such action by airlines. Think of a duty of care. If I start to grow henna, marijuana, create marijuana, if I rent a place from you, then you are seen as part of the problem, legally. So you might end up in prison as well. Why is it that airlines can come away by not doing anything? They know it's happening. IATA knows it's happening. EU knows it's happening.
Well,
how is it? What is that?
It is shocking, isn't it? Of course, they know.
They get away with doing nothing or hardly anything.
It's pushing them hard enough so that they can't get away with ignoring the issue.
So, in short, the last minute. Let me do talk. What we as COT, short for Children on Tour, suggest is establishment of a database that stores a minor's passport and notarized birth certificate. I know it sounds like a lot, but next. Notarized municipal records of the person dropping off and the person picking up. Any child, preferably anyone younger than 18, who is traveling without any parents unaccompanied. Passports of the adult dropping off and the adult picking up, also stored in a database. These records should be checked and copied by an airport authority, not by you or me or some handler or an airline staff member, by an airport authority. Check all the stuff, the records by an airport authority should check this before releasing the child who is approved to fly and before they leave the airport with the adult who is picking them up. Very important, it's all very important, but this is really important. Then the creation of a simple, we're flying to the moon, so they say. Creation of simple app for an iPad or any tablet, used by all airlines that connects the information in the database with the authorities. And then the last thing, which is relatively new, there is a company who has, there are probably more companies like that, but I know of one company who has a simple product to check whether someone dropping off, picking up is a problem, yes or no. It will give a cross or a green V.
Yeah.
So my message to states and airlines is, it's time to act, protect and respect. That's not what you're doing right now. People might not like me, but I'm not in this industry to gather more friends. I'm in this industry to get things done, and I can't do it on my own. I need others like you. I need people around me like Rob Wainwright. I need people like from Homeland Security. I'm willing to talk with anyone, but it's already known. So the principle 5 is so simple. The Palermo Protocol is so simple. We as Children on Tour ask people to support us and join our campaign in any way you can. What it is, I'll leave that up to people. And there is also, at last but not least, there is a screenplay written by a screenwriter. There is a book, it's not published yet, on my story. I would love to have a publisher interested in publishing the book or a producer producing the movie for the big screen. And we had 2 offers. We just said no because it was not the right time, maybe not a good decision. And some really want to. It's like legal thieves. They
we know how they could be. We are now bang up against time, so I must say thank you so much for talking to us, Rob. You've done a wonderful job of explaining how you've got into this, and I think that the seriosity with how you campaign is really going to come across to people. And your website is childrenontour.org. So for everybody who's listened to this and is horrified to discover that these kids are just ghosting through these airports with a big loophole through the system, please check out Rob's website, and we're going to be doing what we can to help him get his message.
May I add something else?
Yes, please do, Rob.
If it's too much text on the website, I mean, some people want to read everything. Go to our support page. We're not asking money. If you want to send money, you can always send me an email, but rather not right now. But please read the article I have written recently. You can easily download it from the support page, or go to, and you guys hopefully will add a link. I published the same article on medium.com.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rob. We must say goodbye, and we will make sure that people get those links, and hopefully we can get some more attention and help get more action on this bloody terrible issue. So thank you very much, Rob Waterlander.
Thank you.
That was John White interviewing Rob Waterlander. Thank you, Rob, for coming on the show. And that was, I would use the word fascinating, but I think I've got to use the word horrific with that as well. Yeah, I think the debate on whether evil exists or not, I'm one to believe it does. I think it is a thing. Where it comes from, and obviously the things that play out from it are a symptom of something, and I think it's where evil thrives, this abyss. But to think that you've got grown-ups looking at children thinking that they're going to plan that future for them, and you just see it so much now. It's just the sexualization of children just out there. Even if it's done in an innocent way, it's just still there. And personally, I just don't like it. I don't feel comfortable with it. I'd like to see it gone and just restore some sanity in that regards. But hey, that's my views. Let me know what you think about today's interview, or any thoughts you might have. As usual, we're always happy to hear from you on that, and any other ideas for guests on this subject, again, that would be appreciated. I'd like to, before I say goodbye, I would like to draw your attention to an article that John also wrote that's been posted on our Facebook page, THA Talks Facebook page. Please go to that and read it. I think it's really good. It sums up my views on the Trump and Britain First tweets that unfolded recently. If you haven't heard, go and check it out. And John's article is something that I do want to see more of on THA Talks, so that we have a chance to express our views on subjects we cover on the show, and we can express ourselves on that for people that want to check it out. And obviously we'll be looking for more contributors if that starts to take off more, and contributors to the THA network, where they can come on board and do writings as well. So it's something I've wanted to build for a while, but obviously sometimes very busy and it's difficult. But it's a great little write-up from John, who's very talented in doing that, and hopefully we'll see more of that. So that is all we've got time for this week. Please keep telling your friends about the show, keep linking the show. It's all free, and we do rely on you to spread the word, and appreciate it when you do. So till the next time, take care. Bye.